Do you get a call from a potential investor, but when you call them back, they won't answer? Well, in this podcast episode, we're going to take you through some common reasons and what you should do from there. We also have some pre-real estate market heat check for October. Don't miss out on what's happening in the real estate market right now on the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike Reilly on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, getting into early fall. And with me once again, my co-host, Mike Ferrante of Century 21. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Mr. Reilly. Good to be here.
And okay, so obviously we do our ritual. Coffee check.
One soy cappuccino down the hatch so far.
All right, I don't know, soy cappuccino. That sounds like an oxymoron to me. So anyways, we'll have to do one of these days. We'll have to do a show on your veggie cooking, your veggie burgers, your veggie this, your veggies. So Mike, you're the vegetarian.
Yeah, you start me down that path though, you won't get me to shut up about it.
Well, that's good. I tend to do most of the talking on these podcasts anyway, so probably just as well. Well, everybody, before we get into the meat of what I want to talk about, I want to do a quick heat check. We got another interest rate coming from the Fed. I know it's not October, so we're not doing an October heat check, but let's just do a kind of a pre-October heat check. What's your feel? What's the latest, Mike?
Yeah, so I was just checking rates this morning actually, and we're seeing rates in the sevens, which we haven't seen for years. I remember I had a rental property with a rate in the sevens, probably 10 years ago. Your 15-year rates are still in the sixes, and of course you can start looking at some adjustable rate mortgages, which I know a lot of people say, oh, those are evil, don't do a adjustable rate. But that's an overgeneralization. So I think as rates rise, it's going to be time to start looking at some of these alternative loan products. And the effect of this, along with some other stuff, winter coming and a natural market slowdown, the seasonal slowdown, we're seeing longer market times, more price reductions. And so I think we're continuing toward that normalization of the market. A lot of people are asking, is it a crash? I don't think so. Most of the experts don't think so. But I guess that remains to be seen.
Yeah, well, the crashes usually come from irrational exuberance. I think we've had a little bit, but nothing like what we had in 06 and 07. So
yeah, right.
So this is just your normal correction coming out of obviously an abnormal economy with the COVID and people staying at home and valuing staying at home. Okay, so here's what we want to talk about this today, which is investors. You investors that are looking to invest in rental property in Cleveland, and we're averaging, Mike, probably 3 or 4 texts on my phone from people. Hey, do you want to sell your house? Hey, do you want to sell your house? I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. And when I call, I just, as a lark now and then before deleting it, I'll actually call some of these people back. And it's a joke. Nobody returns your call. Nobody, when you talk to these people and you said, hey, I've got a property you might be interested in, just as a test, and, call me at 5 tomorrow when I'll be free. And nothing. No call, no show, nothing. And you got to ask yourself, what is the purpose of going to all this extent to get leads, to generate leads, and then when they fall in your lap, you just fumble the ball? What's your take on this?
Well, how much time do you have, Mike? So I can tell you, I can tell you from a real estate agent perspective that there are millions and millions of leads generated each year in the real estate end of things for agents, by different companies, Zillow, Realtor.com, and then everybody else who's out there generating leads, selling them to real estate agents. And I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's something insane, like 40 or 42% of those leads never get contacted. and it's something ridiculous, like an average of 7 hours before someone gets back to a lead. They've actually done studies on this, and your typical agent is only following up once, maybe twice if they're lucky, with any given lead. And that's not the way to convert leads. Well, so to talk about what you're talking about is the investors, the wholesalers, the guys who are generating these leads by texting. So they're using different software and they're sending texts to people who own properties, but what they're looking for are those non-owner occupieds. That's NOOs, as they call them. So they go through, they have systems that scour county records and they find Reilly Properties, for example, Reilly Painting and Contracting, my companies that are in LLCs, and they identify them and they say, aha, here's someone who,
Aha!
right? That's how the software works. It actually is written in the code. It says aha, and then it spits out an address, and it searches records, and it finds phone numbers and email addresses, and it mails letters, and so they're lead generating machines. And it's interesting to hear you say what you said, Mike, because apparently the investors and wholesalers are also not doing a great job following up with those leads. So rather a lengthy explanation, but I think that's what's going on. They're generating all these leads and doing a poor job following up with them.
Well, I had a lot of experience with that when I first started my painting business, folks. And I started my business in 1974. So, oh my God, we're coming up to 50 years, almost 50 years.
Wow.
But I started my business when I was in college to pay for college, painting houses, this and that. And then as our business matured, when I got out of college, my late 20s into my 30s, I was astounded by the incompetence in the contracting business. Customers would call and, they go out for the proverbial, I'm collecting 3 estimates before I hire somebody. And invariably, I was the only one showing up. In fact, it got so bad, and this goes back 30 years, folks, when I was doing, we were doing my own ads on WCLV-FM, the classical radio station, which I developed a very loyal following there. It got so bad, I actually did an ad on the radio, which said, or my daughter, Lindsay, who was probably 12 years old at the time, she did an ad saying, well, if you call our company, a lady named Karen will answer, and they'll get somebody out to give you an estimate, and they'll actually show up. That was the hook. It wasn't like we were the low price. It was that we'd actually show up on time. And then if you gave us the job, I started talking about stuff like cleaning up every day. We're not going to smoke in your house. That was a huge, huge ad that we did, not smoking in the house, again, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it just showed, it was such a low bar to deliver a quality product. Show up, keep it clean, don't stop and start, run off to another job, finish what you start. I mean, just basic level of incompetence. And the irony of it is, in the last 15 years, as our property business has taken off, I'm seeing the same level of incompetence, not just in, investors, but I'm also seeing that in the real estate business, where real estate agents are putting up these houses, the lawn's not cut, the windows are dirty, the shutter's hanging off the front. And I'm thinking to myself, this is like one day of just cleanup and then put it on the market, but they're not doing it. So I think, I guess you're confirming what I'm thinking, because this is one part of the real estate business which is just rife with incompetence.
Agreed. Yeah, and it's always been that way, and it always will, Mike. You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say the bar is so low. We did the same thing on our team, in our business. The basic standard is we'll call you back, and we'll call you back in a timely manner, and we show up. And I think it's like that in a lot of businesses. And I guess the investor / wholesale side of the business is very similar. But what you're talking about, and I think this is a good segue to what we wanted to talk about today, are these off-market deals. And, I think that investors' ears light up when they hear off-market deals, when people are posting in our Facebook groups or contacting us and saying, hey, I'm looking for off-market deals. Their sense is that, oh, it's off market. That means there's less competition. That means it's a better deal for me. And there could be some truth to that in some cases. The seller isn't necessarily paying a real estate commission, so their costs are lower. So maybe they pass some of that savings along to the buyer. And I think that there are always opportunities for off-market deals if you'll just call people back and follow up and turn every stone to find them. And that's one of the things we were talking about, Mike, are some of the properties you're selling, and those are considered off market deals because they're not always listed on the MLS.
Right. And what's really interesting is, folks, we're going into a little bit of an infomercial here. So if you want to put the earmuffs on or switch over to another podcast, be my guest, because we're going to start, Mike and I are going to start talking about the deals that we have. Usually we kind of save this for, our little podcast commercial where we, pitch what we're doing. But I'm getting frustrated by all the texts I'm getting, and I'm getting frustrated talking to a lot of these investors who are calling up. And, they said, well, I'm looking for a property in Cleveland. And I tell them, look, it's $150 an hour. I don't just give this away for free. Well, I'm just looking. No, you've got to hire a consultant. We're the consultant. And Mike, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum about how, you got, as a realtor, it's like you get these people calling and you don't want to waste your time on somebody who's just window shopping. You want to deal with somebody who's serious because you only have X number of hours in a day or in a week with your team. So you don't want to be necessarily taking on, a client who's not serious.
Right.
So I'm talking to investors and they're going on and on and on about the 1%, the cap rate and this and that. And they just need a property manager. And I'm thinking to myself, are you crazy? You've got this so backward. The property management business in Cleveland is as incompetent as most of the painting companies that I competed with 30 years ago. I mean, it is a shit show here in Cleveland with the level of competent property managers. And quite frankly, the property managers who are competent, they're not taking any business because they've got more business than they can handle. Your thoughts?
It's so true, Mike. I've been doing this a long time, dealing with a lot of investors, and I can't tell you how many investors come to me and say, my properties aren't performing. I can't find a good property manager. I just want to sell them. They get that desperate. They become so frustrated by the lack of performance of their properties. And in some cases, they're bad properties. They're just properties that were doomed from the start. But in other cases, I look at them and I say, these aren't bad properties. I think you just are having a bad experience with management. But people get so frustrated. One of my first clients literally put his properties on eBay and just took what he could get for him so that he could walk away as quickly as possible. That's how bad the management was, and he had such a bad experience. He just wanted to dump them and walk away. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to find good management here in Cleveland, and I assume it's that way in other markets as well.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a little anecdote to show you the level of incompetence. A couple of years ago, we had a house down the street from where I live, and this guy, the guy who owned it, he was a doctor. He's out in LA, went to Case Medical School, and he lived there, and then he moved, and then he just didn't take care of the house, and he had a realtor, manage the property, and it was just, it was terrible. And of course, the city of Cleveland Heights did nothing on this property. It just was, the lawn was uncut, the yard was overgrown, and finally I tracked this guy down and said, hey, listen, I'm going to have to take you to court if you don't clean this up. He goes, well, can you help me get a good tenant?
Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back. If you've been listening to this podcast, then you understand or should understand the pitfalls of investing in Cleveland real estate. Say you're looking for an investment property to rent, and these are the things that could happen and often do. You overpay for a house, and it's in the ghetto. Then you find that it's a money pit with endless surprise repairs. Your hapless property manager, who may be the brother-in-law of the realtor, gets a tenant who after 3 months stops paying the rent. Then the toilet explodes, and you have nobody to repair it because, guess what? The property manager is not answering the phone. Yep, that's the ugly side of the Cleveland real estate market. But we have a solution. Buy one of our properties. It's been inspected. It's been vetted. It's in a rock-solid part of town. It comes with a Gold Star tenant paying top dollar rent, and we manage it. Call us at 216-371-8160 if you're interested.
Now, here's the key, folks. We told this guy, if you want a good tenant, this house has to look nice.
That's
okay?
right. Yep.
All right. Now, listen, everybody. Most property managers can't seem to put that 2 and 2 equation together. If they don't, if the house looks like a ghetto house or out in some hillbilly land, and sorry for me being a little bit politically incorrect here, but you're going to get the same type of tenant in there who will destroy the property, who will start missing rent payments, who will not report the faucet or the toilet is overflowing, and which then leads to a humongous water bill. And all of a sudden, you're careening down the hill towards a major loss. And it all starts with you getting a lousy, passive property manager, and who can't seem to understand that the lawn needs to be cut, that shutter that's ready to fall down needs to be fixed, the windows need to be washed, the house needs to be cleaned on the inside, maybe a few flowers in front. And we're not talking about spending $1 million on this house. We're talking about maybe spending $2,000 to just clean it up. And then all of a sudden, you're going to get that resident who's going to drive over, take a look at it, and say, yeah, nice neighborhood, house looks nice, seems to be well maintained. I don't have to worry about the landlord, not showing up if there's a problem. And bingo, you get a good tenant. Okay? And then everything is stabilized. They're going to keep an eye on the water. They're not going to destroy the property. They're just basically here to work their ass off for 18 hours a day. They probably Venmo their rent payment to you, and there you go. That's it, Mike. This is not rocket science.
Again, the bar is very low. It doesn't. A lot of people think, oh, I have to totally. You're saying I got to totally renovate my properties? No, the bar is very low. Clean. Move-in ready, just the basics that you would want if you were looking to hang your hat somewhere for a month or a year or 3 years.
Right. So the most important factor, investors out there, is who is managing this property. It's not the price. It's not the location. It's not the off-market deal. You can throw away your cap rate and all your little, think about Harold Ramis in Ghostbusters looking at his little computer, handheld computer thing when a ghost shows up. Okay, no, just get your head out of the spreadsheets and say to yourself, the most important part of the equation is the property manager. Okay, and most of them are booked up. Okay, most of them right now are, because people are fleeing. They're like you said, they're getting buyer's remorse. They bought the house, they lined up the property manager, they patted themselves on the back, and they got all prepared to see their spreadsheet come to reality. And what's happening is the spreadsheet is careening off the road. So final thought before I give my closing speech, Mike.
I can't agree more, Mike. And the thing about managers that you said is that, a lot of them are turning away business. They're starting to, I know one big property management company in town that's looking at zip codes and saying, yeah, we don't go there. So it is getting harder and harder to find a good property manager. I make the analogy, it's like having a Ferrari and not putting any gas in the tank.
Right. So the first thing is, if you've never invested in Cleveland, don't talk to me about how you're getting five or six properties. Okay, just come in here like a rookie on an NFL team or a Major League Baseball team. All right, you're a rookie. I don't care if you bought, you have property, in California. That's a whole different world out there because you have a lot of good property managers. In Cleveland, you have no good property managers. This is the show. This is where fortunes go to die, investing in real estate in Cleveland. So if you understand that, then you can get some of the, the wax out of your eyes or wax out of your ears and, get the fog out of your eyeglasses. Now, what we do, and here comes the infomercial, folks. We have 3, 4, 5 properties out of our portfolio right now. We call it round 2 because round 1 we sold a few to our long-term client, and we manage those properties. We have the Gold Star tenant in place, and these are the rents are going to be roughly 10% of what the property you'll buy is, right, Mike? Because you're listing these properties.
That's right. Yep.
So if it's a $200,000 property, you've got a 1-year lease at $2,000, right? If it's a $130,000 3-bedroom in a nice neighborhood, the rent in place is somewhere around $1,300.
Yeah, that's the 1% rule that a lot of guys look at to try to get a quick gauge on return.
Right, and the house is all fixed up. It's all point of sale compliant. Gold Star tenant in place, and we only have 4 or 5 of these deals right now. Okay, so let me remember that scene in The Godfather when Sollozzo comes and he looks at me, he goes, "So why are you making me this great offer? It's just too good to be true, right, Mike?" So
that's right.
You tell them why we're making this offer, if you can.
I'd like to hear your explanation of it. I mean,
you want to see my smoke first, right?
I do. I want to hear from you first, the whole deal, because frankly, I look at your properties and I'm like, man, this is exactly what investors are looking for. And as I look at my portfolio, I've got it down to where there's none I want to part with. I know I can't reinvest that money anywhere else and do better. So, yeah.
Okay, well, here's why we're doing it. Initially, we bought a lot of properties in Forest Hill as a defense, and we're talking 10 back in 06, not 06, but 08. So starting in 08 with the crash, I moved into my own neighborhood of Forest Hill, and we bought a lot of properties. Well, now the market's come back. Forest Hill is stabilized like a lot of market, and we want to spread our properties out into other areas on the east side: Pepper Pike, Beechwood, Chagrin Falls. There's nothing out there. It's like virgin investing territory. And we have the ability to pick up off-market deals through our contracting business. But I have a certain cap about how many properties I want to have in my own portfolio. So if we're going to make that move out east with different kind of properties, and especially, as you know, we just bought this mansion in Cleveland Heights, 10 bedrooms, 4.5 bath. We're going to set that up as a high-end short-term rental. As we set up these more luxury kind of properties, we want to keep our portfolio in balance. So having a long-term great tenant doesn't take a lot of property management work on our end. It frees up cash on us to make this, reinvestment. And that's it, folks. That's the transparent reason. I don't want to be managing every house in Cleveland. I'm not looking for volume. I'm looking for quality. So these instead of selling these properties just to an owner occupied, we're getting calls from investors, and I'm telling all the investors the same thing. This is like buying a money market or not a money market, but a T-bill. Or it's just a safe blue chip first investment for you. And that's the answer.
Yeah, and a quick addition to that, I've looked at these properties, and I think that you're selling at a discount, because we know in general that owner occupiers tend to pay a little more than investors will pay. So we've had this conversation where I say, hey, you could get X if you sell it as an investor property, X plus 5 to 10% if you want to vacate it and sell to owner occupiers. So not to sound too commercial-ish here, but I think you are leaving a little money on the table and selling these at a discount when you're selling them that way. So there really are deals to be had here, and that's another reason why I call these off-market deals.
Right, but here's the catch for me. I have tenants in place here, so we've got a lease, and you know what? And they only lease from us as long as we're the property manager. So investor out there, if you're going to buy one of our properties, you're going to have us as the property manager. That's in the lease. And we don't charge a monthly fee. We just charge, if repairs need to be made, or at the end of the lease, we got to get a new tenant, we charge a commission for that. So our fees are they are very reasonable. It's not a monthly fee. The money goes directly to you. It's not collected by us and then sent to you. It's Venmo to you, or whatever you feel comfortable with, the first of the month or the 15th of the month or whenever it's set up. But the money is coming in like clockwork, like your Social Security money. So that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to reiterate what you just said, because I don't know anyone in town who isn't charging a monthly fee. Your typical monthly fee for singles and doubles like these types of properties it's 10%. If you own a bunch of them, maybe you get it down to 8%, but that's every month, just for them being there, for them having an office and sitting there and collecting rent and so forth. It's an interesting model because it's actually a lower cost model for the investor, for the owners of the properties. And essentially I've called what you guys do maintenance management. So it's not really full property management. There's that lack of a monthly fee makes it a very interesting thing, at least worth having a conversation, I think.
Right. So, hey, listen, everybody, infomercial's over. Next week we'll be in October. We're going to do a deep dive in October heat check. Mike Ferrante has got all the listings. If you're interested, just go to ReillyProperties.com, hit the contact button, ask for a prospectus. We'll send that out to you along with Mike's email, so that the Mike team can be on this.
Yeah, Mike, over 130 listings right now is what we're carrying. So, if you want to be first to know about new properties, 21mike.com is a good place to go find out.
All right, another plug.
Shameless plug.
All right, so we'll end this infomercial now, and we'll pick it up next week with October heat check. All right, thanks,
Looking
Mike.
forward to it. Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast with Mike Reilly. Please add our show or follow us on Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. Leave a like or comment on the video. All engagement is appreciated. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well for video content coming soon. For any Cleveland listeners or Cleveland Browns fans, you can check out our other podcast, Cleveland Browns Anonymous, for our weekly group therapy session. This is also on all the same platforms as the Cleveland Real Estate Investor.